Welcome to Reggie Sports Talk. I'm your host, RJ Kruger. It is a beautiful December day. I hope you all enjoy this night's episode of Reggie Sports Talk. In this special episode, my guests and I are going to talk about the college football conference championship games that take place this Saturday. Tonight, my guest is someone who might be smarter than me in all things sports. He goes to the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign. He is a football beat reporter for the Daily Illini and is a former cross-country all-star at Naperville North. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Josh Peach to the show. How you doing, Josh?
I'm good, RJ. Thanks for that intro. All-star might be a stretch, but yeah, I was a cross-country runner, and now I get to cover a lot of football for U of I, which is awesome as a journalist, but pretty awful as a sports fan. So yeah, I'm glad to be here.
Yeah. So I'm just going to go in alphabetical order on these games, like I told you in our pre-meeting introduction.
Yep.
So we'll just start with the ACC championship game. This game is a Week 10 rematch where Clemson will play Notre Dame. The last time Notre Dame and Clemson played, Notre Dame won 47-40 in the second overtime. However, Trevor Lawrence was out with COVID. Josh, what do you think of this game, and what's a bold prediction that you have for this game?
This is definitely my most interesting game of the week for sure. I watched that Notre Dame Clemson game that one night, and even though Trevor Lawrence wasn't playing, it was still super competitive for both teams. Their freshman quarterback is really good, so if Trevor Lawrence does leave after this year, I know Clemson is in good hands. Notre Dame is awesome too. I think it's going to be really close again. A lot of people said if Trevor Lawrence would have played Clemson, would have blown Notre Dame out. But the Notre Dame offense showed up. They showed up that week too. So I know that it's not at Notre Dame. There's not going to be any fans or field rushing this time, but I really, really like the game.
Yeah. And what's your bold prediction for this one?
I think Trevor Lawrence is going to have maximum 5 incompletions. I think that he's going to tear up the Notre Dame secondary, and we're going to see probably the biggest game of Trevor Lawrence's life.
Yeah, I think Clemson will take this one. Having Trevor Lawrence back will really help them out. He's been playing great all year. I know in a couple of videos before this, I said Justin Fields is better than Trevor Lawrence. I still think that, but I can't deny the fact that Trevor Lawrence is still playing very great football right now. And I think he'll give a game to Notre Dame. And my bold prediction for this one, like you said, I think it's going to be a close game, but I still think Trevor Lawrence will throw for at least 6 touchdowns.
Yeah, I definitely think that Clemson's going to win 6 touchdowns, man. That would just solidify any type of number one, ranking for him as far as the draft goes. But yeah, I'm with you. I think Clemson wins a close one.
Yeah. All right. This next game is one near and dear to my heart. Big Ten championship game. In the Big Ten championship game, Ohio State plays Northwestern. Ohio State has had a lot of controversy around this. People are saying they do not deserve to be in this game because in the college football playoff conversations because of all their games being canceled due to COVID. Only one of these 3 games of theirs being canceled due to COVID was their Ohio State's fault, and that unfortunately was the U of I game. Josh, you're very close to this situation being a Big Ten reporter. What do you think about the Ohio State controversy first, and then about the game in your bold prediction?
Yeah, so as far as the game, is Ohio State getting in there to begin with? I think they definitely should be in the championship game because let's think about this from a Big Ten standpoint. They want someone to get into the college football playoff, which I know we're going to talk about later. And the only way they do that is if they win the Big Ten championship. And like you said, they had 3 games canceled, and their only one that was actually canceled on their own terms was the game against U of I, which unfortunately I didn't get to cover because of that. But I definitely think that the Big Ten did the right thing letting them in. I like to root for Big Ten teams, so obviously I agree with that. As far as the game goes, Northwestern's coming off a 28-10 victory over Illinois, who is not competitive. So I think Ohio State might have the advantage there by a little bit because Northwestern just faced a bad team. I think that it's not going to be like the Big Ten championship 2 years ago where Northwestern kept it close for a little bit. Ohio State's going to blow them out. I think Justin Fields is going to run for 3 touchdowns. That's my bold prediction.
Yeah, Justin Fields, great quarterback. Ohio State's a great team. They got their coach back. They beat Michigan State a couple weeks ago without Ryan Day, which was really big. Northwestern lost to Michigan State a couple weeks ago. And then, like you just said, won a very close game against a U of I team who has just fired their head coach. I think that Ohio State wins this game, and I think it's by a lot, like you said. I think they win by at least 15 points, if not a lot more. My bold prediction for this game, though, is that Justin Fields will be back to his old form. And what I mean by that is in the beginning of the year, you saw those stats of like 3 or 4 games in a row where he had more total touchdowns than he did in completions. And I think he will do that again this game, whether it's the 3 rushing touchdowns that you said Justin Fields might have or passing touchdowns. I think Justin Fields throwing touchdowns and rushing touchdowns will be more than his completions in the game. My big number is I think he'll have 7 total touchdowns and 6 incompletions.
7 touchdowns. I'd love to see it. So you just said earlier, you think that Fields is a better player. So you said player, but does that mean prospect too, or just overall better than Trevor Lawrence?
I tried to make the argument with my friend in a video that Justin Fields should get drafted before Trevor Lawrence and should win the Heisman this year, and that he's an overall better player. And we made a bet that Justin Fields or Trevor Lawrence who would win a Super Bowl first, and I said Justin Fields.
I definitely agree with your friend. As an Ohio State fan, you're not going to like this, but I'm not big on Justin Fields. I think he's a fantastic college quarterback. He should be top 3 in the Heisman, but in the NFL, I see Trevor having a much higher ceiling.
Yeah. Who knows? We'll see.
Who knows?
I see him very Lamar-esque in a better passer than Lamar, but running ability like Lamar. So we'll see.
That's true.
Yeah. So Big 12 championship. The Big 12 championship game is a battle of 2 lost teams. Oklahoma is playing Iowa State. If I'm being honest, this is a game I'm most torn about. I believe both teams have a chance to win. This also is really a game I don't really know the most about. I know Oklahoma has been a powerhouse in the past with, you look at Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray, and then last year with Jalen Hurts. Oklahoma's been breeding these quarterbacks. I mean, look, all 3 of their quarterbacks in the past 3 to 4 years have wins in the NFL as of right now because Jalen Hurts just beat the Saints a couple days ago. I mean, what do you think, Josh?
So I have, again, like you, I am very torn on this game because I think Spencer Rattler, he was supposed to be a Heisman guy at the beginning of the year, slow start to the year, but recently he's picked it up. And then Iowa State, obviously, who has Matt Campbell, who I love. I and a lot of Illinois fans think that he should be Illinois' coach because they got the wrong Toledo guy many years ago. So I like the coaching in Lincoln Riley and Matt Campbell. I love Spencer Rattler. I think I might take Oklahoma in this one. I think that they've gotten it together the past few weeks, even though their defense is atrocious for some reason. I really think that Oklahoma is going to do it, and I think Spencer Rattler is going to put up the Heisman numbers that he was supposed to this year, and he's going to throw for 5 touchdown passes.
I agree with you. I think Oklahoma wins this game. I just can't count out Lincoln Riley. I mean, how many times in the past 5 years has Lincoln Riley won a Big 12 championship with a different quarterback? There's just something about him. He's a coach that can coach a winning team no matter who he gets out there. My bold prediction, though, is we always hear about this Big 12 offense spread and not really a lot of rushing. I think Oklahoma will have less than 10 rushing attempts in this game. I think there will be a lot of passing, a lot of spread offense that we hear about all the time.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you there. I think it's going to be pass heavy. And I know that Iowa State did beat Oklahoma earlier this year, 37-30. But 1, it's really hard to beat a team twice. I think everyone knows that. And 2, it's not in Iowa State. Like I said, I think that Oklahoma has gotten a lot better since that game. I'm going to take Oklahoma by about 10, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. And now the game that I don't want to talk about, but we will. I don't want to talk about it because one of our listeners to the show, Drew Montemeyer, goes to Alabama. And I don't want to hear him be all happy when we both have to inevitably say that Alabama wins this game. Josh, what do you think?
All right. I mean, if it weren't for a shoe throw, this game would be a lot more intriguing. Let's make that clear at first. That Florida guy for throwing the shoe against LSU was one of the biggest bonehead moves I've seen probably in all the years I've watched college football, because Florida doesn't have a chance to make the playoff now. Florida has a really good offense. I really, really like Kyle Trask. He's one of my Heisman favorites for sure. But how can you not take Alabama by at least 3 or 4 touchdowns in this? I mean, Najee Harris is the best running back in the country. Mac Jones is doing well. Their offensive coordinator, who in some other world I want Illinois to get as their head coach, Sark, he's fantastic. Nick Saban's amazing. Alabama by, I don't know, RJ, 28 points, maybe. I don't think it's going to be close. I think that Najee Harris is going to run for 3 touchdowns because we know how much they love to rush touchdowns. In fact, my bold prediction, Najee Harris 4 touchdowns, and I think that Alabama wins by 4
Yeah.
touchdowns.
I have like basically the same thing written down that I said. I think Alabama will take care of business and it won't be long for them to get a big lead. And I said I think that they would win by at least 28 points, and also that Harris will have 4 rushing touchdowns. I mean,
Really?
yeah, I do. I agree. Alabama.
I mean, great minds think alike, I guess, here.
I
Like,
know.
that's, man, they're such a powerhouse. Like, anyone that thought Auburn would be able to compete with them, LSU, man, LSU fell off. And everyone else, or even Georgia, like that Georgia game was supposed to be a good one. I know it was in Tuscaloosa, but that wasn't even close. Like, Alabama is just so clearly the number 1 team in the country right now.
Yeah. Which gets us to our last question. Who are your top 4?
All right. So I think that right now it's definitely how ESPN has it, which goes Alabama, Notre Dame, Clemson, Ohio State. I'd probably put Ohio State above Clemson right now just because they're undefeated as my top 4. But we both know that that's going to change because if Notre Dame beat Clemson, Clemson is definitely out. If Clemson beats Notre Dame, in my opinion, Notre Dame should be out. So I definitely don't think we're going to see these 4 teams in the college football playoff, but that's my top 4 right now.
So after the championship games all play out with your predictions, who are you saying on the Sunday at noon the selection committee is putting in 1 through 4?
Oh, man. So you're just talking about like for the actual playoff, right?
Yeah.
Who do I think is going to be in there?
Yeah.
This is so hard for me to say. I mean, well, first off, I'd like to say that I don't think that it should be 4 teams. I'm in favor of not only it going to 8 teams, but I think it should be 16 teams. That's pretty unpopular. So this 4th thing is so tough. All right, I'm going to go with, so I do think Clemson's going to beat Notre Dame. So I'm going to go Alabama number 1, Ohio State number 2, Clemson number 3. I'll tell you what I'm thinking. I'm choosing between Texas A&M, USC, and Cincinnati as my 4th team because I have a hard time seeing the playoff putting in Cincinnati because even though I love Luke Fickell, I don't think they're going to put a non-Power 5 team in there. USC hasn't played anyone. They've won a lot of close games. They beat a not very good USC team in like the final minutes. And then Texas A&M has like 1 loss to Alabama, and they're really, really good, but that's an inevitable loss. So maybe I'll go Texas A&M, but I can't feel too good about any of those 14 or any of those 3 teams I listed.
Yeah. I think for me, I have Alabama at 1. I think I have Clemson at 2 if they beat Notre Dame because they revenged their 1 loss. And in their 1 loss, they didn't have their quarterback due to COVID. I have Ohio State at 3. And I'm really torn between A&M and Notre Dame. The one thing I can think of is if Notre Dame's 1 loss is to a team that they beat earlier in the year, how do you not put them in, especially if they were undefeated the rest of the year up until that game? Especially because your argument is Texas A&M's only lost to Alabama, but Alabama's in there too. So I think it's a toss-up between Texas A&M and Notre Dame. I think for this, I'm just going to have to say Notre Dame because they lost in a championship game and not just on a regular week. But I think those 2 are back and forth.
I think you might have changed my mind already. I didn't think about the only losses to another team that's in there because if you think about it, they cannot put Texas A&M in there if they're going to say Notre Dame's not in there. I want to get your opinion on Cincinnati, though. What do you think about that situation?
I don't think the committee will do it. I, like you, would like to see them at number 4. I just don't think the committee will do that. A couple of videos ago, I also made a video with someone talking about how they need to change the college football format. And I said they need to do an 18 playoff. I didn't do 16, but that was also something I was thinking of. But I made a whole 18 playoff with all Power 5 conference champions automatically making it in, and then 3 wildcard teams where you could put someone like a Cincinnati or a UCF from a couple years ago in.
Mm-hmm.
I personally would put Cincinnati in at number 4 if Notre Dame loses. And A&M both have the loss. I would put Cincinnati in at 4, but I don't think the committee can swallow their pride enough to do that.
Yeah, with as far as A-team goes, I think I agree with you all the way. I'd definitely go the 5 Power 5 winners. And then in my mind, it should be like unofficially the best non-Power 5 team that's in the FBS and then 2 wild cards, which kind of means the same thing. Like you said, like Cincinnati would definitely get that spot. That's what I want to see. I think that a 16 would be even more fun because if you had 4 quarterfinal games on New Year's, that would be awesome. You'd go because you'd go championship week and then 4 playoff weeks in a row. I think they should do it. I think they could do it. They have the bowl space, but what do I know?
Yeah. We're just a bunch of college kids who like to watch football.
Yeah, we're just a bunch of college football obsessed college kids, like you said. We don't know anything.
NCAA, take our money and take the sponsorships you would make by creating the new bowl games and do it.
RJ, maybe they should hire us. Maybe the NCAA should start calling us up and paying us for our opinions.
I think so. I think so. Well,
I think
thanks
so
for
too.
joining us today, Josh.
Yeah, of course, RJ. Thanks for having me.
Thank you all of you for joining in on Reggie Sports Talk. If you like this video, please share it and like it. Comment down below who you think will win each game in your top 4 in the college football playoffs. If you want more content like this, please subscribe. See you next week when we talk about the NFL and the Bears and what's next for them after their game against the Vikings. See you soon.